until 2 o'clock. We've got the brilliant Charlie Cooke on the show in about the next 20 minutes. He founded Union Jab in Brighton. He is a nutritionist, published health writer, qualified personal trainer, an all-round top bloke. He's very, very inspiring. So you'll be hearing from Charlie in about the next 10 minutes. Right now, it is 11 minutes past 11. We've got George, Ezra and Budapest.
Tune Twister.
Right, here we go then with the Tune Twister. And then a brilliant guest for you. His name is Charlie Cooke. He founded Union Jab in Brighton. It's an amazing boxing club, and he's a brilliant bloke, very charismatic. How would I describe him? Very inspirational. So Charlie coming up on the show very shortly. Right now, though, Tune Twister, if you are new to BBC Radio. 18 minutes past 11 then. Dua Lipa on the way for you. Duran Duran as well. 81333 starting your messages with BBC. Clue number 2 coming shortly. Right, you're going to meet Charlie now. So Charlie Cooke does it all. He's a boxing coach. He's a nutritionist. He's a published health writer. He's a qualified personal trainer. And he also founded Union Jab in Brighton. It's an amazing place. It doesn't just focus on physical health, but also emotional and social well-being as well. It's just an amazing community hub, really, in a sense. And Charlie is massively passionate about his community around him and getting as many people involved as he can.
Union Jab is about coaching real boxing, but people who don't want to get their mush boxed in.
Yeah.
And so I come from competitive boxing. I was a competitive boxing coach, but my experience of boxing was I had no interest in winning accolades and trophies, but I love coaching real boxing. Especially being autistic, ADHD, we attract a lot of autistic ADHD children and adults too. And our target market is fitness for people who don't want to get fit, which is a much broader market than the fitness enthusiasts. Because, you know, again, we use boxing as a tool because our priority is actually not physical fitness. Our priority is social engagement.
That's really interesting.
So our strata goes, and when we coach other coaches, our stratification goes social health first, then it's mental health, then it's physical health, and that's our priority setting.
That's so interesting because when you get that social health and then the mental health, actually the physical health
it'll come with it.
I mean, everything is kind of balanced, isn't it?
So my background's in marketing, and whenever you put together your target market and all the rest, one of the first things you want to define is your communication style. What are you talking about? And if you look at any of our marketing, we don't actually talk about fitness really at all. It's very rare we'll mention fitness, because good luck turning up to a boxing class for 45 minutes with a partner, throwing those combinations and moving and trying to think about defending, and you're so engaged, and because you're working with a partner to do the drills, we don't do much solo work. It's almost all teams and drills and pad work and things like that. Good luck not getting out of breath. Like, honestly, if you can turn up to our classes and you can manage to get through it without getting sweaty, and if you can do that consistently, if you come to so we've got 3 classes a week, if you come to each one of those for 6 weeks and you don't get fitter and you don't lose weight, I would honestly be flabbergasted, and I would shake your hand for the fact you managed it. It would be incredible. So we don't need to talk about it because it's the byproduct, and it makes it more enjoyable for the members.
And let's talk about how much people enjoy it and what it does for them, because obviously the physical fitness, that happens as byproduct, but in terms of, you know, the hormones that it releases, what does it do for you when people have finished their session? How do they feel relative to when they've come in?
Well, a lot more relaxed.
That's interesting.
That's normally the case when you've had a stressful day and you've been given 45 minutes to punch things. It does tend to relieve a lot. Obviously, I mean, you can look at it from kind of the sports science point of view. So, for instance, I'm currently doing a Masters at Newcastle Uni, and we're conducting research in the influence of like muscle damage on various biomarkers and influences of power and things. And you can get super into it, but in my opinion, the reality is it's really fun. And it's just a case of it engages your focus so entirely, and there aren't many sports that do that. And when I was like a PT in the gyms, what's a typical person who goes to the gym? Oh, well, I'll come in, go on the cross trainer for a bit, go around cardio equipment, right? And then what? Go on some machines. It's boring. It's really boring. And it's like, well, no wonder you've had trouble being consistent. Whereas if you come into a class and everybody knows your name and they're asking how your day's been, and then next thing you know, you've warmed up, and I didn't realise we did a warm up. And then when you're given a drill, you go, I want you to throw this hand and that hand, and I want you to move your head in this order, and you're so busy focusing on that, you haven't realised that your heart rate's at 90% of its max for like 2 minutes straight, and you go, well, that's an accident. And next thing you know, that you're sweating buckets and you've been moving around an entire room and you've not noticed because you've been talking to your partner and you're trying to help them out. And that's why our tagline is all boxing together. So when we have the kids in, especially, kids always want to work with the best one in there, and they don't want to work you know, and this is early doors, and they come in. They don't want to work with someone who's, you know, less skilled than they are, less fit than they are.
Yeah.
So the first thing we go through with any new kids is, I suppose it's a bit cultish, but we indoctrinate them in a realm of positivity, where we say, okay, you're working with this boxer, right? If you help them get better, what will happen when you're paired up with them? Oh, well, therefore I can work harder.
Yeah.
So therefore, what will happen to you? Oh, I'll get better.
And you'll feel better for helping somebody else.
Absolutely. And then we keep promoting that culture, and we get a few kids, so out of a class of, say, 20 kids, we'll notice there's about 5 or 6 who are really good at explaining things. And what we'll do is, whenever we get a new member in, we'll go, okay, could you please work with, you know, David? Could you please work with Will? Could you please work with, I call her Bambi. Could you work with Bambi?
Yeah.
Because they will take the time and they'll explain things. They'll go a bit slower with them because they've been part of the classes. Next thing you know, you've now got a class with 20 coaches in it.
Fantastic.
Rather than one coach stood at the front, and then because they're engaging, they don't realise that they're also getting a workout, and then the next thing you know, all of these kids, you know, are doing burpees for 2 minutes straight, and they're enjoying it, and it's extreme manipulation, but
it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sleeping better as well, because if you exercise, you're going to sleep better.
Yeah, especially,
and then you're going to eat better.
A lot of our kids come in from specialist schools as well. We have a lot of kids who come in from quite SEN focused schools.
Special educational needs. Yeah,
we work with those schools. We've got a group we're working with from Cedars Academy, for instance.
Fantastic.
And we meet with them. We have a lot of people with coordination issues. So, like, I have a lot of coordination problems, which is why I took to boxing, because it forces you to be better at coordination.
Yeah.
Self-efficacy skills, kind of skills revolving around balance, are really, really important. We've had quite a lot of people come in with dyspraxia.
Yeah.
You wouldn't notice.
He's great, isn't he? Charlie Cooke, who founded Union Jab in Ryton. More from Charlie in a couple of minutes' time on BBC Radio Newcastle. It is the sound of the North East. I like that cult of positivity. Sounds like a cult I'd probably be quite into getting involved in. And also, we've got great music from Duran Duran as well. Clue number 2 will be on the way on the Tune Twister next as well. Cooke from Union Jab in Ryton, an incredible kind of community boxing hub, and he's a personal trainer. He's just full of advice and full of positivity. So that's coming up. Right, it's time now for clue number 2. Marty the unicyclist. Can I get a 11:35? It's clue number 2 that's done it, hasn't it? On the Tune Twister. Peter and Hetton, well done. You've got it. Sean in Merton, you are absolutely correct as well. We'll give you clue number 3 in about the next 10 minutes or so. Helen in Crammy. You've just snuck on in there with the silver as well. 8133, starting your messages with BBC. I like this quiz. You can tell, can't you? Right, this morning you have been hearing from Charlie Cooke. He's, honestly, I absolutely loved spending time with Charlie. One of those people that is a mood, what's the word I'm looking for? Morris Duffy was talking about this yesterday. You can either be a mood sucker or a mood blower. He's a mood blower. Like he blows energy into life and into everybody around him. He founded a community boxing gym called Union Jab in Ryton, and it's about getting people active, but it's also about people having social well-being and emotional well-being as well as physical. Everybody's welcome at his club, including young people with special educational needs. He does that a lot with autism, a lot of people with ADHD as well. Boxing can also be a great tool for women. Now, we see some really difficult stories in the news about the dangers that a lot of women face, and I know gentlemen face troubles too, but channeling energy into something like boxing, that can entirely transform your confidence.
My uncle's military, and he's who I'm named after.
Yeah.
And he was, Gurkha Special Forces and all of that kind of line.
Yeah.
And I remember I said to him, you're a teenager and you're a lad and you're all full of it. And I went, what's the best weapon in a fight? And he said, eye contact. And that was the game changer. So, like, when I was a PT, I did a lot with women who unfortunately come out of domestic abuse, and a lot of it was quite physically violent domestic abuse. And I remember one woman who was unbelievably brave. She had actually had a concave skull from a marble lamp.
Oh my
and
gosh.
That's the degree that some of these people who come through that you're talking to and dealing with. And in those circumstances, the reality is boxing is a sport.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And when we go in, we say to anyone, boxing is a sport where you're scoring points, and the game of the game is hit them and don't get hit back. The difference is where it turns to violence.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, however, that there isn't a beneficial transaction between the two. So if you took, say, my Abby, she's 5'1", 47 kilo.
This is your other half.
Yeah. If you take my Abby, right? If she was then attacked by a 6'2", 100 kilo guy,
yeah,
the reality of the world is, no, you don't know that's coming.
Yeah.
You do not know that's coming.
Yeah.
And the reality is there is a size difference, and you could have done a lot of boxing. However, the reality of self-defense, in my opinion, is not about your ability to throw a punch. It's about your ability to read a situation.
Yeah.
And obviously you have the trademarks, walk in well-lit areas, don't have headphones in, don't have your hood up. And although a lot can be helpful, I think situational awareness you can gain dramatically from engaging in any form of combat sport.
Yeah.
Because you learn how to read someone's body language so much better. And I think a lot of people who haven't grown up around violent cultures or violent events, they don't have that same understanding of this looks like it's going to blow up.
Yeah.
And if you take, the case of Lena, the attacker, what was his name, McSweeney, he had already been out on that night trying to find somebody else, getting himself amped up. And when I've worked with other people, the first thing I say is, if you ever see a fight kick off in a nightclub, leave quickly, because people are hyenas, and as soon as someone's got their blood up, there's going to be another fight, and then there's going to be another one, and then there's going to be another. Just get out the situation.
Yeah.
Have you made sure that you're checking for exits and going, am I in a position to leave? Are you getting so drunk that you can't walk? That's another factor. It's that awareness of going, what environment am I in? What person have I got in front of me? And am I in a position where if something goes wrong, I know how I'm going to handle it?
Yeah.
And I mean, that confidence of knowing you're going to be able to resolve the situation you're in.
Exactly, confidence. I want to talk about that because, I mean, the fact is it shouldn't matter if you've got headphones in or not in or
Correct.
any of those things. You shouldn't go through life like that, but it is life and we do have to think about those things. But the confidence is really interesting because one of my very good friends, Dee, comes and boxes with you, and she said her confidence levels have gone up a lot. Yeah. So do you see that in women?
Absolutely. I mean, if we get anybody in who's been off, a lot of women come in off relationships, abusive, toxic relationships. Yeah. I find it very similar to young ones who come in with bullying. It's very, very similar. Yeah. And what I explain is the degrees of escalation. So when you have somebody who's trying to, put harm on you, the first thing they'll do is they'll try and take control verbally. Yes. They'll try and control the situation. They'll try and talk you down, demean you. Yeah. If they fail with that, then maybe they'll try and control it emotionally. Let's see if I can make you cry. Let's see if I can make you react. If they can't control that, maybe they'll try and control you psychologically, and they'll try and go up another level and go, okay, maybe I can say something about your sister, your mum. Maybe I can say something about how you are. Gaslighting would fall in there, emotional, psychological manipulation.
Which can happen online as well.
Absolutely. And as you go up those scales, in my opinion, the final level of that is physical. That is the final step of escalation. I think what's interesting is if you're someone who engages in combat sport on a regular basis, and that is with or without sparring, and that is something I found very interesting. Because Union Jab, we don't do any open contact, full force sparring. We just don't do it because people have got jobs, they don't want black eyes and concussions. Yeah. Same as me. I'm like, look, I've been there and done it. I've got to go to work in the morning. However, we have noticed the same degree of improved confidence because when you think of those steps of escalation, if it goes to the final step, physical altercation, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. What happens is you gain more confidence in those other steps because you're no longer as scared of what happens when you get to the final step. Yeah. So at step one, when they're maybe being verbally abusive, you're able to keep your calm a lot easier. Maybe it takes a bit longer before you get that adrenaline spike. And some people can get into an argument, you hear the shaking voice, and they're going, and it can initiate, and you feel like, oh no, I'm ready for a fight here. Yeah. Whereas if you've been there 100 times and you go, you're fine, you're not going to hit me, you're going to be all right. All of a sudden, you find that you're in a much lower state of alertness at those lower stages of escalation, which means it never ends up escalating.
And that's really the ultimate
aim. And that alone that's the confidence, in my opinion, because if it gets to that final stage, I'm going to be all right. Yeah. Which means it never does. That's that age-old saying, you learn how to fight so you never have to.
Absolutely. That's a great thing to say. And in terms of your enjoyment, Charlie, of your job and what you do at Union Jab, how much joy do you get?
I absolutely adore it, and the reality is, I've worked very hard within my industry and I've worked very hard within multiple sectors of it, and I've worked in marketing. I've done the big money jobs, I've done the rubbish money jobs. Yeah. And what I always say to people is there's different forms of currency and finance is only one of them. At the end of the day, when we've got kids who are coming in, I got a message from someone the other day, their autistic son is engaging in a sports day, which was the other day. That means a lot more and I think there's no amount of money you could transact that's worth the same as the influence that you could be having on these kids for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Because again, a lot of these kids, they might fall into the system, they get told that they're unable to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's it, you know, and then they're going to be part of that system for and most of them, that's not actually the case. Just give them that confidence, give them that kind of self-efficacy, that ability to see an issue and resolve it. I think that's a far greater payoff than anything else I could be doing with my time.
100%. Charlie Cooke, all around top fella. Union Jab is the community in Brighton. If you want to get involved, he travels all over though. Does Charlie? Does lots of talking and personalised online training and all sorts. So you can find Union Jab online, and Charlie will be right there. It is 17 minutes to 12 right now. We're going to have Keen to Crow on the way.